Fantastic.
Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast today. And it actually is Monday for both of us. Dr. Lavinia Alberi, am I allowed to call you Dr.
Yeah,
Lavinia
correct.
Alberi? I won't call
Yeah.
you Doctor the whole way through, but Dr. Lavinia Alberi, welcome to the pod. Lavinia is all the way from currently in Switzerland, where I think it's like 9:15 a.m. Monday morning, and it's 5:15 p.m. here
Yeah.
in Melbourne, Australia. And it's really much, I'm really quite thrilled to be talking to you, Lavinia, because this is something that is so close to my heart in terms of getting into it, that proactive living and preventative, health. And I'm going to just reel off a few things about you and then hand it over to you to really share with us your journey, what you're doing currently, but you're a distinguished neuroscientist, entrepreneur, and advocate for integrated health. You, up until 2022, were leading a neurology research at the Swiss Integrative Center for Human Health in
Mhm.
Freiburg, Switzerland. And then you've got a PhD in neuroscience, and obviously that's the doctor component, an MBA as well. And you combine scientific insight with real world application to advance health outcomes globally. And it's almost like, what does that look like from a future perspective? And now you're like the co-founder of your own company, which is 100% what you're doing now, and it's VitalizeDx. But then on the side, you've also got where you get your philanthropic, advocacy from. You are the founder of BrainFit4Life. So
Yeah.
doing a lot. Tell us a bit about your journey and yeah, let's have a chat.
Yeah. Thank you, Belinda. Thank you for the opportunity. And I'm really happy to be in this podcast, which spans the whole globe. And I'm Lavinia Alberi. I am effectively a neuroscientist, seasoned at this point. But of course, as we all researcher, and we are very keen on finding solutions for unaddressed chronic diseases. I basically started my company out of really the conviction that we need to have diagnostic, which is accessible, accurate, and actionable. And the first thought was to start my salivary diagnostic company on Alzheimer, which is really close to my heart, both for family reason, but also for my background. I studied the pathogenesis of Alzheimer for 20 years and also Parkinson's disease. Um, but of course, it's a tough call, right? And so I thought, well, I should start with wellness and creating those what I call biodynamic twins that really accompany clients throughout their journey and showing them that they can action specific items related to their lifestyle in order to improve both physical and psychological resilience. We are translating this concept to performance. So we're currently working with professional athletic teams and applying the same really paradigm and trying really to do integration of fluid, psychological, and physical biomarker in order to construct those athletic twins. And each team member has a twin, which correspond to their traits. Everything is anonymized, and we really help teams to improve performance, maximize resilience, and of course, be a winning team. So we're currently working with one League A basketball team. We will soon work with another League A soccer team. We also support both triathletes of the 5 Ironman Beat Alzheimer, and we basically would like really to show that with minimal invasiveness and really data integration, we can really reach a very good understanding of the profile, both psychological, biological, and physical.
Wow. Wow. So it's almost like for me, like it's mind, body, soul, really, isn't it? It's like how does it the whole lot interconnect? This twin
Yes.
piece, this twin piece is when you say, the athlete has a twin, like,
Yeah.
can you explain that a little bit more to me, please? Because I'm like, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Is it
So
yeah.
the twin, of course, is as good as the data is, right? And the more data you have, the better projection you can make. At this particular time, uh, we have a predictive model. We use a lot of machine learning in order to project those twins. But of course, there is always a percentage of accuracy. We are currently at 89% of accuracy. So we are pretty close, but there's never 100%, right? I mean, saying that you have 100% accuracy would be crazy. So,
Yeah.
but what we do basically over the trajectory, and this of course becomes better over and over when you have more data points, is basically we profile the athletes. That works much better with the athletes because we have, of course, repetitive testing, and we are able to tell them what are the fine tuning of their psychological, biological, and physical setup that could be modified. Of course, we tell this to the coach. So the idea is really to deliver some of the information to the athletes so that they can have really an outlook on their status. But of course, we do have a much more deep understanding, and we deliver this type of very deep analytic reports to the coach, and then the coach implements some changes, which are typically related to their sport training or their just their psychological also training and support.
Wow. Yeah, wow, because it's almost like how do you further optimize them, right? In terms of, do you ever have athletes that you work with where they're almost in what I call that when I'm working with leaders or with businesses and teams when they're operating from that almost like survival mode, like they're depleted.
Yeah.
If you think
So
about yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So we are able to predict or at least to detect those athletes that are in this moment of overload, and this is very important for the team. I mean, this is having someone who's overloaded. They need rest and psychological and physical. As we know, it's a lot about the psychological stress and the burden, right? So we are really capable of identifying those individuals that are prone to overload. We can also identify more tangible things like muscular overstrain, but we have a predictive capacity to identify those who will need more care and more recovery. So
And how do you like from a practical sense, like obviously you've explained a little bit in terms of because neuroscience can be complex, right? And then putting the practical aspect to it. Do you then work with like you obviously work with the professional athletes, but then you also talk to their coaches. Like
yeah.
how does it then shift their behavior as well? Because, quite often you might get told something, and I know that I quite often sometimes do this as well, and you know that that's what you should be doing, but you're also then almost like, still operating in a different way, or you're still pushing yourself. Um,
Yeah.
like how does it work in that regard?
Yeah. So what we do, we provide scorecards for athletes where we do have actions, specific actions, which are basically based on the literature and on reports, and we give them specific suggestions. And then to the coach, what we do, we do this deep analytic. We can kind of have alerts, and then we can sit together with the coach to have a deeper conversation. The amount of data is quite impressive because we go from determinants of health for each athlete. Of course, each athlete is different, and then we go to really fine-tuning of how they could perform if they change some parameters. Of course, this effort is as good as the amount of data we have. Currently, we have 25 biomarkers, so you could extend this to 100 biomarkers, and then you would have different determinants, right? But within the determinants that we have, which are, as I mentioned, biological, psychological, and physical, we really can portray this twin that, of course, corresponds to an athlete, and really understand deep what are the levers that could improve his performance and its well-being, basically.
Yeah, I love that. And how does then the resilience bit play into it in terms of, like, obviously resilience is a big focus.
Absolutely.
How does the
Yeah.
resilience piece play?
So we measure about 3 factors, actually 4, and we integrate them. So one is testosterone, the other one is cortisol, uric acid, and we'll also look at nitrates. And so TCR, which is very well recognized as a resilience marker for physical and psychological resilience, is a very strong predictor of performance. And this we see really in network analysis and has been already reported, but it's really the determinants of what will be somehow the driving force of the performance. And it's not just from the literature. I mean, we see it really in the causal inference analysis. We use a lot of machine learning in order to see that. And that is compounded also by uric acid, which we simply very easily can measure from saliva, and also nitrate. And so both of these factors, one is more of a readout of muscle overtrain, so, and the other one, nitrate, is more of a marker of cardiovascular turnover. So the higher the nitrate, the better the cardiovascular turnover. The lower the uric acid, the more muscular overtrain. So we do basically connect all those factors, and then we provide a conditioning score for each athlete. And of course, this is, as I mentioned, has an accuracy of 89%. And then it's a little bit the role of the coach to understand what is the information that should be delivered to the athlete, and in addition to the action that we give to each athlete, how to tweak and how to modify his conditioning.
Wow, I've got so many questions, but I'm conscious of, like, too many questions, right? But one that's coming up for me right now is data and intuition in terms of, like, even from a health perspective. We know our bodies, we know our minds. You talked about this cognitive overload, and we know when we're pushing our body. In terms of, though, receiving all this data and then being able to take it to, through the twin, or, through the athlete or the coach, how much does intuition come into this as well? In terms of, you've got all this data, but then also then how does intuition play in terms of knowing our bodies, knowing our minds, and also the coach knowing the players as well?
Yeah, well, as a scientist, intuition is certainly something that the serendipity or the intuition or something that you feel for is important. In terms of the deliverables, I think we are very robust into the data analytics. So we try certainly not to deliver intuitive message, but rather a data-based message. Of course, in my life trajectory, I had the intuition. I loved the brain. I went and did pharmaceutical chemistry, and then I thought, but actually, biochemistry or biology is kind of super cool. It's really
Yeah.
so complex, right? And so I chose to go rather the biochemist or neurobiology
Yeah.
pathway, leaving behind all my chemistry and pharma background, but I thought that, I mean, the brain is so complex, and yet, we can do so much. And I would say that now I envision really a future where there's not going to be any more sporadic AD. I mean, where we can really do revert the progression of the disease, because we know how good it's, to implement this preventative approaches with physical activity, dietary supplementation, social interaction,
Yeah.
and of course cognition. So it's very important to continue to be cognitively active. I think as an entrepreneur, you
Yeah.
are over
100%.
cognitively
Yeah.
active,
Yeah.
uh, but uh, but I believe that truly, and I just recently read an article where there was a lady who was diagnosed with increased tauopathy and also signs of Alzheimer, and she basically embraced a preventative route. And now all her markers are basically down, and she's cognitively normal. She was cognitively normal before, but just her biomarkers, her blood biomarkers. And now we know from yesterday, the FDA cleared the blood biomarker for Alzheimer, and this is going to be adopted in the clinic as first line of surveillance. But even if you do have them and you are early on in this continuum, you can modify and you can revert. And I'm fully convinced that preventative approaches hold great promise for a lot of chronic conditions.
I totally agree, and even from my own experience, which takes me into the business aspect of it, and even as an entrepreneur, like when you are, like going 100 miles an hour and you're not being preventative with your health, you might still be active, but you're not looking at it holistically like you're talking about. Chronic stress, that all kind of adds up. And like you say, it's that cognition, the cognitive
Yeah,
overload, the stress and pressure you're putting on your mind and body as well. And I know even for my own self, when I haven't been, approaching health from a preventative aspect, I do get sick. Like you might get
totally.
a virus, you might get a cold, like it builds. And so it's a constant reminder for me of, well, how am I being preventative in looking after my mind, my body, and I call it my soul as well. How am I staying completely interconnected so that I am combating all that. And I totally agree with you. I think preventative health is, that what do they say? Quite often you go to the doctor for, like a quick fix, but then, how do you start to versus rather than looking at things as a quick fix, it's like that transactional piece, right? It's and how do you look at it more holistically, so it's not transactional. It's like I'm constantly, my body's my mind and my body is my temple. You'll
Absolutely. Your body, your mind are your temple, and they are connected.
and it's not rocket science, is it? But yet we seem to,
No,
in the
yeah,
world, we still seem to look at it as it's complicated. And so, what you're doing with bringing this into the world, and also the fact that it's practical, and the way you're applying it, you're transforming these challenges into opportunities. And case in point,
absolutely.
you're
Yeah,
almost combating these chronic diseases that, quite often we bring on, and I don't mean this in sometimes we bring on these chronic illnesses, if you like, ourselves because we haven't been preventative in terms of there's a different way to look after
yeah.
ourselves.
And I think it's a question also of knowledge and what we are trying to do with the 5RM and beat Alzheimer. And I give a lot of credit to Hassan, who is my co-founder and of course the president of the association. He's really showing how you can, through physical activity, of course, they're doing a triathlon. Not everyone can do a triathlon, but they're showing really and showcasing how physical activity and also mental activity can contribute to this resilience, to this brain resilience, to this cognitive resilience. Of course, there are many, many parts in the sport. I think it's really a universal topic because it unites so many things, right? And also the social aspect. So I think that knowing that through physical activity or cognitive activity, you are releasing so many endorphins and so many factors that are trophic for the brain that eventually really are, and also really promote well-being. And in some cases, we are also tackling mental health issues. There are many contributors of the project that are also in the mental disease and depression and schizophrenia space. And really everyone sees and experiences this betterment through physical and cognitive and social activity that you can really reach through physical training, sports, and even if it's a sports by your own as a triathlete or a swimmer or or a biker, you still have this this motivation and this type of you're in a positive loop. So and also overcoming your limitations, right? So you start, maybe you're a little bit overweight and you do little progress, but then it's all onto a path, right? It's a really understanding your body, understanding what works for you. It is indicated that about 30 minutes of activity per day should suffice. I would not completely agree with this. I think you need a little bit more, give more time. But of course, 30 minutes to start with should be a very good start. I myself, I'm training 1 hour per day, and I'm getting better and better. So it's really a question of exercise and exercise your body, but also your brain to really embrace, an upper limit, so to say.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny, like I've had a few people of recent say to me, you look so different, Bee, like in terms of where I was previously in my old world. And, that was that chronic stress and I looked unhealthy. And as much as I was, exercising daily, I was pushing myself to my limits. So, and my load was so over, my brain was so overloaded. I was never present. I was constantly just like, what's next? And, this 100 miles an hour. And it caught up with me in terms of a chronic stress buildup and then, getting that severe burnout diagnosis. Tell me, for me, my mission, in life now is, and starting my own company is that there's a better way. There's a better way to be a leader. There's a better way to perform as a team. And, and we don't have to operate from that of hustle and survival mode. You're doing all this work with these athletes at the moment. Do you see the opportunity to also move what you're doing, into working in corporate world, in businesses where we still have such this burnout culture, this hustle culture? Because for me, that's the ultimate is it is, how do you connect, how do you create that inside out transformation? How do you connect mind, body, and soul? And I use those terms because they're the terms I use with my clients. How are they actively recovering? How are they reducing the cognitive load, like from a physiological and a biological perspective? An athlete is no different to like a corporate athlete in my mind.
Absolutely. No difference. I mean, they are part of a team and they need to perform as good as, someone who's working in the corporate world and part of a team. And I think that the team are interesting because they're very complementary, and of course there is good dynamic, and it's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, corporate health is something that I thought about. We need to be focused for now. And I think that precision performance is something which I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
On the side, of course, we are doing also R&D project in the context of Alzheimer and other conditions. But for in terms of deliverables and also a sustainable business, I think we will stick for some time to precision performance.
One
We're
step
also
at a time.
developing, yeah, we're also developing a nano sensor for detecting TCR. So we are quite deep into this field. We think there is a good opportunity both for us, but also for the team, the recipient of this technology, and we want to provide improvement, and we want really to deliver some a product of quality that really gives an added value to the client. And we're pretty convinced that with this non-invasive approach that we are building on, which is cell library diagnostic and detection, and integrating this with traits, physical, psychological, but it could be also digital traits, and we will have also biomechanical data. We're really able to deliver something quite unique.
Wow, it's fascinating. Fascinating. All right, well, we'll put business down the track, but yeah, I do think there's like, I'm probably planting a seed in with you, but I just see such an opportunity because we don't necessarily treat ourselves like, athletes at times, and yet we're performing like athletes. We don't have that,
Oh, we are, yes.
Yeah, we're constantly, you would know this, I would know this as, high performers, and there's only so much you can perform at that level before you have to have what I call that active recovery, and that needs to
recovery is the key in order to be able to perform at your maximum. And actually what we will look at, we look really at this recovery phase, and sometimes there are alarms to go up because we see that we see this both in the psychological traits, but also the biological marker are there. Even maybe you want to continue, but your biological markers say you to stop, right?
Yeah. And I didn't listen. That was probably my challenge when I was burning out. I wasn't listening to my body. I wasn't listening to my mind and my body. And I did crash and burn. I've got a couple of more questions for you. When you booked in to do the pod, I've been asking everyone what their kind of, do they have an insight on life leadership and or business? And I'm just going to read out what you said. And I'm super curious around the last point, both from an entrepreneur, but also in everything you're doing when it comes to proactive living and preventative health. You say resilience, overcome your mental limitation, transform challenges into opportunities, bring on like-minded individuals with the same vision, stay away from naysayers, and talk to those who want to listen, think beyond tomorrow. Can you elaborate a little bit on this with us, please?
Yes. So, well, this is a little bit, of course, I'm a seasoned researcher, and not as much entrepreneur because I transition in midlife to being an entrepreneur. But certainly for my career, resilience was essential. I mean, really sticking to your passion, to a vision. Of course, pivoting. Yeah, you can always pivot. You can go in one direction, and otherwise would be also a little. Don't be stubborn, but really be flexible, and surround yourself really by team members who are complementary, and in a very democratic way, horizontal. Of course, I can give guidance, but they will give back feedback, and they will enrich really the project, and stay away, of course, from uh, from those who just are skeptical without having really understood, and they don't want to know more just because they have stigma, or they just have some type of blockade. They don't want to listen. I remember once I was talking about prevention in Switzerland, and this is not a concept which is very transactional here. And there was one guy who said, well, but you cannot do it. You cannot make money with prevention. And so for me, your project is just is a no-go. And okay, that's fine. And but I don't need to I don't need to interact with those people, because I want to proceed. This is like a closed door, and a closed door, there is a window open, and the window of opportunities may be even larger. You can get it really into the new world. And so from there, it really rang a bell. And when I was in conversation with a colleague, and he said, stop talking to people who don't want to listen to you. Start talking to the one where you can construct really an opportunity, but also value. We want to create value, and we create value day by day. This is very important. This is within the team, with clients, with investors, with everyone around us, with the patients. Sometimes we have direct contact also with patients when we're campaigning with the 5 Ironman Beat Alzheimer. We have contact with patients, their family. We have been family members ourselves. So everyone brings something to the table. It's very important to really chase this opportunity and stay away from the desert of thoughts.
Yeah, I love that. The desert of thoughts, but also, like you say, like when there is a closed door, but there's always a window. There's always that window. And I think,
And it's
when
a pretty window.
yeah, totally, right? Totally. But also like those naysayers, like I think that's where the limiting beliefs come in as well. And it's almost like I think sometimes that they're projecting their own they're projecting their own insecurities onto you.
Yeah.
And society, we've probably been taught that, like listen to take on the feedback, but it's like you can take it on to a point, but it's also then, what I'm choosing to listen to, what I'm not choosing to listen to. And you also know, I'm going to throw that word out there, intuitively, when it's time to pivot. Like as an entrepreneur, if you've tested and tested and tested it, like you talked around the pivot, nothing's linear. It's all non-linear.
No,
And
no, there's nothing. And today, we live in a volatile environment. I wouldn't say that we need to go zigzag, but we need to be attentive, knowledgeable, and really actionable and transactional, basically, to be able really to stay afloat, but not only to stay afloat, to really bring this added value.
yeah.
And to the extent of the limitation, I think we start already very well off. We're all born in countries that have no experience, no war. This is really the lottery. As Warren Buffett was saying, I was born in a country, and I just from the very beginning I won the lottery, right? Because already the environment was there for me to develop in a certain direction. It's my responsibility then to make the right steps and make the right choice. But it's also a lot about who you connect to. And
Absolutely.
I think that I have to say we are a community, and in order to change things, we need a village, and we are this village.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. In terms of what is your biggest hope for the future when it comes to preventative health and what you're doing?
I think the biggest hope is really to see those measures implemented through this actionable diagnostic. Could be what we do, integrative, biological, physical, but digital things that are extremely accessible. So we're looking forward to something that is accessible, that is daily, of course, that really doesn't leave anyone behind. And so I'm envisioning something that can be embraced really by the great population, and it's not selective, it's not elective. Everyone can do it, and we're really on the brace and revolution of a mental health, brain health, body health revolution that will help us getting old. I'm already past my 50s, so
Yeah, look at.
I am. Yes. I'm building basically my wealth, my health wealth towards the next chapter of my life, and I want this to be as exciting as it was my first chapter, and really in order to stay healthy and be brain healthy, body healthy, I need to construct this every day. And so the knowledge, the awareness, and this is really for everyone. So it's this is what I envision. I envision really a democratized type of health that can be implemented in various ways, very personalized. So I really am very much about personalization.
Yeah.
And this is why we looked at those integrated traits, and we build those twins because we want to really them to be a companion to the person in order really to envision a healthy trajectory. So everything very accessible, doesn't have to cost much, but certainly it needs to be adopted and followed on a daily basis.
Okay, one more serious question and then a fun question for the very end. I've asked you what your hope is. What is one thing we could each do today to start our journey towards that integrative preventative health? What's one thing we could do from today, for example?
Yeah. So certainly sleep is very important to start with, and I've never been a good sleeper. This is just not.
Neither. Like I'm just like, oh gosh, when I actually sleep through the night, which is rare, I actually jump up and go, oh my God, I slept for like 6 or 7 hours. Like what?
Yeah. That happens to me too. I think physical activity certainly helps. Also rebalancing, this excitatory networks that keep you up at night. Eating healthy. I'm more onto a ketogenic based diet, although I'm not fully ketogenic. I think ketogenic protein based, fat based diet has anti-inflammatory properties. Taking mitochondrial activators such as glutathione and NAC. I do them. I mean, I'm just it makes me feel much better because I do a lot of physical activity. I'm taking collagen. Otherwise, I cannot bike. I cannot walk, or I cannot run. So it's really also having cognitive activity, very, very important, being active, but being also socially active, and really, if there is an issue, air it. And I think seeking help is actually
so important.
mandatory.
Yeah,
very important. So staying healthy in the many aspects. There's not one aspect that I would emphasize, but it's really the complex of those intervention. And again, there is so much evidence that both physical and also dietary interventions, but also social intervention, can really change the trajectory of so many chronic conditions, including cancer, that we thought before was almost untreatable. Of course, nowadays we have an interventional, and thank God we have interventional medicine that can stop it. But in order to maintain this healthy living, I think it's very important to capitalize on what we have available.
Wow, such an incredible conversation. My fun question is you said you live between Switzerland and Italy, and
Yeah,
you've also got the company in both like Switzerland and then also in Italy. How many languages can you speak?
I speak 4 languages.
Well, four languages. I was like, I wrote that down at the very beginning. I'm like, I wonder how many
Yeah.
languages Lavinia can speak. Wow,
Yes,
amazing.
well, I was born in Italy, in Trieste, wonderful city. If you happen, there are many people from Trieste who moved to Australia, even part of my family.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, uh, and I went to school there until I was 26, and then I moved to Germany. So of course I learned
That's the
German,
precision. Yeah, yeah.
uh, and at the same time, my father took to me in English when I was a little child, and so I basically grew up bilingual. And then I moved to the U.S. And so then of course, I was speaking only English at that particular point, and some German, and then French. And then I happened to come to Switzerland. It was a little bit of serendipity because I was looking for a position to set up my lab, and I just happened to land in a French speaking canton.
Wow.
So currently,
Incredible.
and now I'm just for fun, just to tickle my brain. I'm learning Russian.
Oh, wow, you're incredible. Absolutely incredible. One last thing. I think there's one other thing that actually, helps us from we've talked about this holistic, approach to health and health and wealth in terms of wealth and health. The other thing I think also is super important is these little people.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Like that
absolutely.
connection back to he also like this is Molly Bob, but he's also such an important little person in terms of just what they can do from I just think there's something really interesting in that as well. Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, and this is something, I mean, in the social interaction, certainly pets, and I mean, which are social animal themselves, right?
yeah,
They are so important, and I think that there is great support, and great love and great interaction with pets, and there are studies that really clearly show that even with the patients who are affected by terminal diseases, pets are such a joy and such a relief in their daily life.
yeah.
So definitely the social interaction is not only human. Now we have social interaction with robots, but probably the sweetest one is with pets.
Exactly, exactly. Sorry, he was laying there and he wanted me to rub his belly, and I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
better pick you up. But Lavinia, how do we find out more about you?
Well, you can definitely write to me on LinkedIn. I'm not as the most active person because I'm so busy running my own business. But definitely you can write to me on LinkedIn. On my website, there is also my email from the company. Just yeah, if you have any question, just contact me. I will try to get back quite swiftly. And really, any question is relevant as soon as it really addresses something that means to you and to what I can help with.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. That's just what you're doing is incredible, and I can't wait to see
Thank you so
where
much.
your
Yeah, thank
business
you.
takes
Yeah,
you.
it's really
Yeah, I've
has
really
been a fun conversation.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And I'm going to annoy you down the track around how are you bringing this into businesses, or maybe come up with some ideas and talk to you about that, because I just think there's just I know
Yeah.
right now there's the focus and precision, but I think there's just such an opportunity for leaders and businesses in time. So thank you,
Oh
thank
yeah,
you.
definitely.
I've loved our chat. Have a wonderful start to the week, and thank you
Yeah,
for the tips
and
on
you too.
what we can do quite immediately from a preventative health perspective. And I'll share your contact details in the notes. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Bee.
Thank
Have
you.
a great one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.